We can't afford to ignore what is happening around us. Let me give you an example. It's cold right now in the city of Nairobi, and yet it's supposed to be a dry month. What's happening? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Beyond Profit, a show that we shall be discussing matters climate change and what exactly is happening to us. Because guess what? You might think, this is not my thing. No, it is. Why? The food that you eat as well gets affected, and you never know when food prices start going up. Like right now, you're complaining about unga and the likes. Ladies and gentlemen, this is all about climate, and right here on Beyond the Profits, we'll be examining what is the journey of SDGs, ESGs as the corporates are calling it, and what is the progress we are making. Are the gatekeepers doing what is meant to be done? And I'll be inviting people right here to help us understand policy players, people in the industry, and people who are really fighting to ensure that we have a safe place to work in and to live in. Welcome to Beyond Profits. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Beyond Profit, the first inaugural show right here on Switch TV. And on our conversation today with our guest, we shall be talking about climate smart agriculture in Africa. What are the opportunities? What can you learn about it? Is it a new term to you? You're right here in the right place to get to understand. Our guest today, Harold Mate, the country project manager right here in Kenya at Kraft. What is Kraft? He was going to tell us about it. But first, let's take a look at his profile. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's glad to have you here. And as you heard from the intro, first of all, welcome as our first guest of the show.
Thank you.
This is a conversation that we really want to endear to people that, listen, as you go about your businesses, it's important for you to as well think about the environment in which you operate, which I know you're a big advocate of, absolutely, right? Sure. So maybe people will be asking, what is Kraft? What is all this about? And maybe you could start by an introduction of who you are and what you are doing as Kraft.
Yeah, maybe I'll take, thank you. I'll take a step back because I would want to start with the organization I work for.
Yes.
So as I said, my name is Harold Mate. I'm the country project manager for Kraft. And Kraft is a project of SNV Netherlands.
Yeah.
And the SNV Netherlands is a development organization. We have been here for 55 years now in Kenya.
Yeah.
And Kraft is a climate change focused project that is dealing with the interventions that are focusing on enabling small and medium enterprises and small farmers to actually adapt to climate change. And we have been discussing you can see, and when you look around, you can actually notice there are variations in weather patterns and rainfall seasons and all that. So how do farmers and SMEs and cooperatives actually adapt to that environment? So that is what Kraft is all about. The project is implemented in 3 countries, Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania, but I'll talk more about Kenya, which is the portfolio that I'm managing.
Okay, wow. I have heard you mention several sectors, especially I have heard you mention SMEs as well as organizations. So do you focus on training them or what exactly goes into the details?
So this project is multifaceted. By one, realizing that for you to be sustainable, you need to engage the private sector.
Absolutely.
And as I said, we have been in development as an organization, SNV, for 55 years in Kenya. And of course, we have a lot of learning as we went along, and realizing that the private sector plays a big role and a very central role in sustainability of whatever intervention that there is. And most of the interventions that actually we do revolve around the private sector.
Okay.
Yes, they are focused on supporting communities to achieve certain goals, but we understand that engaging the private sector makes it sustainable.
Okay.
So for us is approaching and targeting the smallholder farmer, but realizing for us to be able to sustainably do that, we have to go through the private sector and create sustainable interventions and solutions that the target communities can actually be able to plug into and do whatever it is that they would want to do. That's why you asked about the small and medium enterprises. You heard me talk about cooperatives, and then the smallholder farmers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let's just go to a bit of a definition for anybody who could be watching and is asking. These are terminologies that are passing me here and there. Let's talk about smart agriculture, climate smart agriculture. What is just that for a mere person who's saying, okay, educate me?
So climate smart agriculture basically is an approach to agriculture that puts into focus the various facets that contribute to your ability to produce optimally in cognizant of the environment that you're in. So when you talk about, a farmer will tell you rainfall is no longer reliable. Think of it this way. If farmers were able to actually, because I know we are able to make at least a prediction that 1 week or even 2 weeks ahead that probably is going to rain and this is the amount of rain in this region. As a farmer, if I had that information and I know I have crops in the farm, probably I would harvest prior
before
to just make sure that before it rains,
you're right.
I have made the smart decision to actually make an intervention. So that is what we are calling climate smart agriculture. When you talk about crop production, what goes into crop production? Most of our farmers sometimes are not used to looking at the soil and understanding what the soil is all about. So they will not do soil testing. A farmer will say, I want to buy fertilizer. They know, of course, you need to put a compound fertilizer, you need to do top dressing with the nitrogenous fertilizers. But how much of it? Which ones of them? Because you need to know what is lacking in your soil. Sometimes we continue fertilizing acidic soils. Whereas I'm supposed to put a lime to ensure
lower the pH. Remember that agricultural terms.
Exactly. to actually not to lower the actually to take it up, because a low pH of below 5 will be acidic. So basically is to say how are we using information to make decisions as farmers and as practitioners in the agricultural sector. So to me that is what I would define as climate smart agriculture, taking cognizance of the ecosystem that you're in and utilizing optimal production practices that are not harmful to your surroundings, to the environment, and do not contribute to what we call degradation in one way or the other. So that is the approach. When you talk about climate smart agriculture, if it's about water use, how do you efficiently use your water? Do you want to put a drip irrigation for the crop you're producing, if it's viable, to efficiently use the little water that you may have now, because you're saying probably the rains have not been enough for the last maybe 2-3 seasons. And now you're saying whatever water I get, the surface runoff that could have been otherwise wasted, can I harvest it, put it somewhere in a dam or in a tank, and use a drip irrigation to water now my crops and produce. So that is climate smart agriculture, and that's the approach that we want to take with our smallholder farmers.
Wow. I know I'm just building a context here, and you sit in a place where you can see where we are, maybe as a country and even Africa in general. And in Kenya we keep saying that agriculture is the backbone of our economy and all that. I know critics would argue about that now because of how things have been advancing. My question to you is this, and I know it could go way beyond with statistics and all, we don't want to go there, but in your simple definition or explanation, what is the current situation right now when it comes to our own here in the country in terms of agriculture and us really being sustainable by ourselves? Is it bad? Is it good? How can you say that in a sentence?
Well, I wouldn't want to make a conclusive answer to that, because I would believe there are actors who are responsible for making those decisions in
Yeah.
terms of where we are.
Mhm.
But if you look at our food situation the last maybe 1 year,
Yeah.
it has not been pretty. We
Mm,
have
yeah.
talked about unavailability of maize.
Yeah,
We have
we've
talked
been
about
importing,
we
yeah.
are importing food
Mhm.
from our neighbors and other
Yeah.
places.
Mhm.
It tells you we have not been able to self-sustain
Yeah.
in terms of food production.
Mhm.
And it has a little bit gotten worse.
Yeah.
And probably it also goes with depending on how because our agriculture is rain-fed. It relies
Heavily on rain.
heavily on rainfall.
Yeah.
So whenever we have suboptimal rainfall,
Mhm.
we definitely get into the red in terms
Wow.
of food availability, and we now rely heavily
Yeah.
on importation. And by the way,
Yeah.
even when we have good rain, by the way,
Yeah.
we still import a certain percentage of food. So generally, we are saying
We're still somewhere in the
we are
red.
still somewhere in the red.
We need to
in
be
a way or the other.
sustainable.
We need to be self-sustaining.
Yeah.
And of course, we can put mechanisms
Yeah.
to try and see, can we be able to get there?
I'll call you back another time. We can talk about what I'm seeing in Ethiopia, wheat and all those things. Very good progress, and we need to get there.
Sure.
So in general, climate smart agriculture is about an integrated approach, as you've said it, to attain sustainable agriculture.
Yeah.
So my question in the context of Africa, what are the areas we can focus on to achieve this climate smart agriculture? Are there areas you could specifically put us to?
Well, I will talk in context of craft and
Yeah.
what we are focused on.
And what you're focusing
And
on.
we are focused on 3 areas.
Yeah.
One, we are talking about investing in technologies and
Yeah.
practices
Mhm.
at the smallholder farmer production level,
Mhm.
because we recognize that over 85% of our food is
Yeah.
produced actually by smallholder farmers.
Mhm.
The second thing is investing in small and medium enterprises.
Mhm.
Again, in Kenya, for example, over 85% of the food we consume is moved by small and medium enterprises.
Wow.
And then the question is, how do we facilitate these small and medium enterprises to be contributors to sustainable agriculture, climate smart agriculture? And then the policy agenda, the enabling environment, that whatever that we do or we seek to do
Yeah.
must be supported by policy, because whatever is not supported by policy
Yeah.
cannot be sustained in the long term.
Yeah.
And that's why we are working with the national government, closely with the national government,
Yeah.
and also the county governments, because we understand that agriculture in Kenya is actually domiciled at the county level. It is a county that actually works with smallholder farmers or in the agricultural sector. And that's the way the constitution has put it. So these actors who are really pertinent to agricultural production becomes key players.
Yeah.
So the issues of policy, the private sector actors in the SMEs, and then the real doers of the work, the smallholder farmers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. My goodness, let me ask you one more question, then we can
Yeah.
take a break. Let's come back to just the work that you're doing as you started from the word go, especially on this part of the continent.
Yeah.
What are some of the business opportunities that can be maximized to address climate change in Africa? Are there some that you see?
They are numerous.
Wow.
There are a lot
For
of
all the business people, they
opportunities.
better listen.
Yes, there are numerous opportunities,
Yeah.
and we have been able to demonstrate as such within craft,
Wow.
the project we're implementing.
Yeah.
And there has been a lot of interest from the private sector to participate
Yeah.
in these interventions. One is that when you look at food,
Yeah.
food is a basic need, really.
Everybody wants it. Needs it,
you
actually.
don't want, you need it.
You need it.
You need it, actually.
So-
And if you go for a day without food, of course, unless you're fasting, but even then, you still want to eat, really.
Absolutely.
So it is to say that food will always be a need and a commodity that people demand for
Yeah.
anytime. Of course, it is shaped by our food habits and cultures, so that the food we choose and the choices we make about the food we eat depends on our culture, our eating culture.
Yeah.
And therein lies now the opportunity. But that opportunity, of course, needs to be matched to the ability to produce this food. For example, now we are talking about maize, and the question is, how do you avail maize to consumers? Because that's people are talking about ugali.
You're right.
But also, it could also be about the slight change of our eating habits and cultures.
Yeah.
So if you look at the smallholder farmer level, when you look at businesses that provide support services, it could be inputs, it could be soil testing services, it could be equipment, including irrigation equipment, farm tillage equipment. Those are business opportunities. But those technologies need to be matched to the need. And the farmer needs to realize what they need. They need, first of all, to understand this is what I need to help me produce optimally. The second thing is that with the SMEs, they also realize that they have opportunity in terms of right now we do not have enough maize, for example, so we have to import.
Okay.
But for the SMEs, is it possible to actually work with the smallholder farmers to produce whatever crop or commodity you need, and that solves some of your inefficiencies in the value chain, the supply chain? Those are business opportunities. For youth, and there is the provision of services. For example, under craft, we are talking about the issue of aggregation. So for you to be able to move efficiently, you want to bulk commodities. If it's maize, if it's sorghum, can the youth actually be part of the aggregators that can actually offer that service? That's a job opportunity.
Absolutely.
If you talk about provision of training, it's about the youth also being able now to provide the training to the smallholder farmers in terms of what they need to do on their farm to become optimal producers. So there are quite a number of opportunities that actually I see along those value chains.
There should be no complaints of, oh, we don't have what. Just go on the ground and start.
It's part of the, you contribute,
Yes.
the bit you can,
Yeah.
and other things also play into contributing to the job creation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, we are watching Beyond Profits. This is it. And I'm telling you, this is the new conversation of where we're headed. We take a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Beyond Profits. And we are saying, listen, there's need for us to think the future and really taking care of our motherland. And this is the earth, the climate, talking matters SDGs, talking matters ESGs as well. And what are we doing? And today we have none other than Harold Mate, who is the country project manager at Craft here in Kenya. And he's just telling us what interventions are they doing, especially with working with farmers on the ground. Harold, before we went on a break, you were talking to us about opportunities that people can maximize, and you gave several, and you said they're numerous. If you missed it, go to part 1, and you can share more later on. But let me get into this other question on how we can leverage investments, leverage especially investments to everyday farmers to ensure that they have access to climate-smart agriculture.
Yeah, so again, for the way we have looked at this under Craft, is we want to have farmers invest in agriculture. But we are aware that farmers may not be having access to credit, for example, or financial services in such a way that enables them to invest in their farms and production systems. Again, at the SME level, if you want to invest in technologies, again, ability to access credit from our financial institutions, again, in the level, in the eyes of climate smart agriculture, you may not really get a product that speaks to that area as such. So our work has been to, of course, do a mapping of the financial sector in Kenya and the products that are available, and then match that to small and medium enterprises, but also show the opportunities to the financial players that there is opportunity actually working with smallholder farmers within groups and cooperatives, and also the SMEs. And of course, for us, we have come in also with the provision of small grants to the SMEs by understanding that for an SME really to be able to invest in climate smart agriculture could be a tall order in the sense that for them they are fighting to remain afloat and profitable. And climate smart agriculture may not have been their core work.
At the beginning, they didn't think about it.
They didn't really think about it. So investing in that through small grants and facilitating some of the actions that we think are going to actually put them on the path to looking at climate smart agriculture as part of the solution to their challenges, especially within the specific value chains.
Wow. Just walk us through maybe an example or two of how everyday farmers in Africa are interacting with these new innovations.
Yeah, so of course, farmers learn best through demonstrations or by seeing. So
Yeah.
if you go to a farmer with a new technology, there is the way they are used to doing things.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, they will look at it and not really be sure whether I want to change, because it's a risk.
Yeah.
If you're telling farmers that you now need to do minimum tillage,
Mm-hmm.
and they are not used to that,
Mm-hmm.
they'll be wondering, what if I do this minimum tillage
Mm-hmm.
and my crops fail?
And they fail.
What am I going to do? And remember, it's a huge risk for them.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we have done is to actually partner with the private sector again, in terms of setting up demonstration farms.
Yeah.
So that we are saying we have these technologies. Technologies can be seed varieties that
Yeah.
are pest tolerant,
Yeah.
disease tolerant, drought
resistant as well. Yeah.
So that can be a technology.
Mhm.
A technology can be a fertilizer.
Yeah.
It can be a crop protection product.
Mhm.
It can be irrigation equipment.
Mhm.
So you need to test this technology
Mhm.
and help the farmers learn, why should I use this new seed variety?
Yeah.
For example, I was speaking to farmers in Nakuru region about a potato seed.
Mhm.
And you might think a potato you can plant any potato because it's
Anyhow.
cheaper, and I mean, you just put it on the ground and it grows.
Yeah.
However, if you get what you call clean planting materials
Uh-huh.
for potato,
Uh-huh.
certified,
Yeah.
and you plant it, you are going to really see a difference. One, in two aspects. One, in terms of the generations that the seed has been recycled. So
Mhm.
if you recycle it more,
Mhm.
its productivity becomes lower.
Mhm.
Again, it becomes vulnerable to diseases and pests.
Mhm.
But if you get clean seed
Yeah.
that is straight from the seed multiplication companies or individuals who are doing that,
Mhm.
you actually see a difference.
Mhm.
But of course, you have to combine the seed
Mhm.
and your farm practices, including what fertilizers you put in. Remember, then, for you to know what to put in there,
Yeah.
then you need soil testing. And I
Mhm.
can tell you,
Mhm.
most farmers, including myself in the village, soil testing is not a thing.
It's nothing.
I mean,
I just put my manure, I'm good.
I put my manure, I put my compound fertilizer.
Yeah.
After my crop germinate, I put my top dressing. Maybe I spray to avoid to mitigate against pests and diseases, and
Yeah.
I wait for my harvest.
Mhm.
And perhaps I could actually have done better. Maybe the fertilizer I'm putting, I'm wasting it because it is no longer available to the crop.
Yeah.
But because traditionally I know I need to put fertilizer, I put it. So those are some of the actions we are telling farmers we need to change.
Yeah.
We need to look at this very differently. And because we have practitioners who are providing these services, you need to embrace them so that you do it right and you produce optimally. The issue is about optimal production.
Mhm.
Where I do not need to spend money putting a fertilizer,
Mhm.
then I don't spend it.
Yeah.
Or where I need to put maybe lime to reduce acidity,
Mhm.
and so that the fertilizer is available, nutrients are available to the crop, then I
Mhm.
do that.
Okay.
And my crop now is
Yeah.
able to really
Thrive and
produce,
do better.
thrive and do better. So those are some of the issues with smallholder farmers,
Yeah.
and generally farmers we are trying to inculcate
Yeah.
and ensure that we are able to guide them through.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, one of the key things that people always say is there are many underlying factors that
Mhm.
will affect such implementations, such great ideas coming to fruition,
Yeah.
and really strategically thinking through the future. As we've said, we don't want to be reacting to things.
Yeah.
We want to
Yeah.
be very strategic.
Mhm.
But you cannot negate the fact that there is policy that
Yeah.
affects this. And in your opinion, how friendly is the policy framework right now as we speak? And maybe the question would be in the continent and its friendliness towards sustainable and climate smart agriculture.
Yeah, I would say that for climate smart agriculture,
Yeah,
I would say the policy is there,
it's there.
albeit new.
Mhm.
So of course it may not have gone to the permeated to every corner as
Yeah.
you would want it,
Yeah.
and also practitioners may have taken time to embrace that.
Mhm.
But also we always say that, and I can always say that we are always looking for what can we do better, even in terms of policy.
Yeah.
For example, if we understand there are issues that are going to help smallholder farmers or agricultural practitioners really do better,
Yeah.
why not put policies that actually support that? And we
Mm.
have started by doing that with the national government has really done the Kenya National Climate Smart Agriculture Strategy.
Okay.
but then the domestication or the cascading of that to the county levels, to the various counties, so the county is now put into context within the county, because you can imagine a county like Kitui or Makueni that is in a dry area may not do the same things as a county in the wet zones around Mount Kenya, Kiambu, maybe, and Rift Valley, Kericho, and others. They could be having slightly different ways of dealing with climate change. However, it is recognizing that we need to do that at the county level. As I said, agriculture is domiciled at the county government. And we, right now, I think there is a big push and in the right direction in terms of ensuring that we actually recognize that climate change is actually affecting the way we're able to produce food in this country. And then the other thing, of course, is to push the private sector to embrace that and work with the private sector to say, if I'm importing an equipment that is deemed to be answering the issue of climate change, can the government be able to maybe make some concessions in terms of tax?
You're right.
And that makes it more available or cheaper, and farmers can actually be able to adopt it.
You're right.
You're talking about dam liners, for example, and are we able to say, well, we're gonna reduce maybe the tax on it, make it affordable so that farmers can harvest water and use that water to actually grow crops. So there could be some subtle concessions in here and there that we can actually try and embrace. If it's other auxiliary services, soil testing, how do we make them available? How do we make them affordable to our farmers so that they make the right decisions in terms of what to plant? The other thing I want to talk about is availability and reliability of weather information.
Go ahead.
As I mentioned, if I'm a farmer, and right now we have actually been told that the rains for this season are going to be depressed. So as a farmer now, I'm thinking, what am I supposed to plant?
do?
All right. How much of this rain am I going to get? When am I going to get it? So that I make a decision on the crop to plant. Because now if I was thinking about planting maize, maybe now I need to be having second thoughts.
Of something different.
Something different. If it's about variety, probably I would be looking at a variety that is a little bit not water intensive, or can withstand some periods of dry weather, or is short maturity period, so that by the time the rains come and go, my crop is mature. So weather information that is reliable and timely provided, because I need to get that information prior to planting the crop, so that I make a decision on what to plant. I also need to know how long is it going to be this rain, how much of it, when it is it going to start and stop. So that kind of investing in such kind of mechanisms is really going to help us, and then make that information accessible to farmers and usable. I can provide information like now, say the rain will be depressed, but what does that mean?
What does it mean?
And there is a lot of variability between the areas. It could be raining here. By the time I get to CBD, it's a completely different story. That kind of variation need to be put into consideration so that we inform our farmers reliably, and enable them to actually make the right decisions.
Wow. Maybe finally we can talk about your organization and how you are, really encompassing the youth, because they're the majority, and we really want to see them embrace, especially agriculture, because there was a complaint. These guys are not thinking about it at all. What are you doing?
So for sure, and I know there's been a huge discussion around youth and agriculture, and the conversation has been that the average age of a farmer in Kenya, I think, is 59 or 60 years old, I think, around there. And the question has been, how do we expect a 60-year person to be the one to actually anchor food production? Well, I think that 60-year person is experienced. They know a lot. So they have a lot of knowledge. And I think they are rightly there. But we are saying we need the younger generation to embrace food production. For the younger generation, of course, they want to embrace what is profitable. What is, of course, again, also they want quick wins, you know. And for us, we are focused on looking at leadership and governance within the institutions that actually we are dealing with, especially the cooperatives. And what we have encouraged the cooperatives that we are working with is to embrace youth within their leadership, and so that as decisions are being made, youth are able to actually contribute and also shape the decisions that are being made.
Yeah.
For example, you'd think about a youth in this country may not be having a title to a piece of land, but we expect them to be farmers. So probably they will need to talk to their father or their parents, get a small piece of land allocated to them just to do production.
Yeah.
The other thing, of course, is for them to look at opportunities within those value chains, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
What job opportunities or income generating activities can they actually be able to do? I talked about aggregation of commodities, whether it is things like potato, and actually we are focusing on four value chains. We have potato, we have beans, we have sorghum, and we have green grams. So in terms of if you're dealing with a bulk of taker, that person would want to have not 20 kgs, not 100. For probably they want to look for 5 tons and above, so that when they come with a truck, they can fill their truck. It is economical, it is efficient for them. Then can the youth actually be able to grab these opportunities, do aggregation? If you're talking about provision of spraying services, for example, crop protection, can the youth actually be, we are training them to actually now be the service providers. We said we have this farmer who is 60-year-old, probably they may not be able to do all these things, but the youth can offer the service. So those are the opportunities we are identifying for the youth to be able to now plug in and provide these services, and it's a win-win situation. You provide the job for the youth, and your crop or your food is produced.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe the parting shot that I would want you to do is looking straight maybe at this camera, talk to a youth and a farmer who is saying, wow, this is probably new to me, or maybe I'm in the journey of embracing this, or how can I engage with craft? What would be your parting shot, first of all, to them, straight on?
So for me, I would say there are opportunities in the agricultural sector, and a lot of them. Within craft, we are working regionally in a number of, about 15 counties, and we are working also with the specific cooperatives and small and medium enterprises. And for me is to say, if we can identify some of the opportunities that can be plugged into the already ongoing work. For example, in Tharaka-Nithi and Meru, there is production of green grams and sorghum. In Bomet, we are working on beans. In Nandi, in Elgeyo Marakwet, we are focusing on potato. In Nyandarua, in Nakuru. So there are quite a number of opportunities within those regions. And I know as far as Busia, actually, sorghum. So there are quite a number of opportunities there. And if we are able to plug into the SMEs and cooperatives that you're already working in, then you become a farmer that is linked to these entities. Then you have an opportunity to actually provide a service. You have the opportunity to actually be a producer and be able to market your produce from the market.
Wow. Thank you so much, Harold, for coming and really opening up our eyes to smart agriculture, climate smart agriculture. And by the way, on my screen you can see COP27, which will be held in Egypt this coming month. And ideally is to let you know that we will be having these conversations about this whole thing about climate, SDGs, ESGs. What are you doing? Going down to exactly what you can be doing. Like today we have focused on you, the farmer. So please make sure to tune in to engage with us, and we really appreciate your company. My name is Maina Shege, and see you next time, same place, right here for another different conversation right here on Beyond Profits. Thank you.